Hi, my name is Gemma and I'm here to talk about unhealthy behaviours which might be symptomatic of emotional or psychological abuses within a relationship. So there are 8 to cover, and the first is where you might feel like the relationship is a jungle. And this is where your partner might make you feel like you're constantly needing to be on high alert for an argument or for accusations. And what happens is they communicate with you in traps. So questions become traps. For example, well, would you rather go out with your friends or stay at home with me? And that's a fairly false choice there in the context of the relationship. Or that statements become traps. For example, you seemed to enjoy talking to your boss last night, with the implication that there might be something going on between you and your boss. And what happens is that you're always braced for a fight, your stress levels are up, and you're always worried about being caught out even though you've done nothing wrong. The second is that you lose your voice within a relationship. And this is where, so in a healthy relationship, you would be expecting to kind of voice your needs and feel like there's a safe space for you to highlight things that you might want to change a little bit. But in some relationships, you feel like you can't voice these needs. And these needs might be needs around physical intimacy, around your independence within the relationship, or needing some reassurance or validation about something. And what you find is that if you do voice these needs, they can be met with an argument and a hostile emotion. So for example, with independence, if you wanted to go out with your friends because you just wanted to see them, you hadn't seen them in a while, this might be met with an argument and then some jealousy or insecurity, or even possibly an accusation that you're not going to see your friends, but you're going to do something else with someone else. Another example is empty promises. So you may sit down with your partner and think about ways to improve the relationship, and they may promise things and say that they might change some of their behaviors, but actually these are empty. And therefore you end up not really bothering anymore. And that's essentially what happens through the course of a relationship, is you become a quieter and quieter component and you end up losing your voice altogether. The third is that you do all the work. So when I spoke before about communicating to make positive changes in a relationship, what ends up happening is that all the love and the compromise and the change comes from you, and your partner doesn't meet you halfway. And this can result with you feeling quite tired, quite dejected, feeling very alone in a relationship, which is one of the loneliest places to be. And at times feeling resentful towards your partner, but not really able to voice that resentment because you know it's not really going to get you any further. The fourth is the scorecard, and that's quite a common one. And at the beginning of relationships, often people make mistakes. There's miscommunication or misunderstandings about sort of the level of maybe commitment between the two of you, and insecurities in previous relationships can sometimes feed into this. And what happens is maybe there's a miscommunication, you have an argument, you both forgive each other, and in your mind you've moved on from this, but your partner brings it up over and over again, even in the context of other arguments, so you can never really move forward from all of the missteps and miscommunications, and it becomes almost like a scorecard each time you have an argument. The fifth goes into thinking about being alone in a relationship. And this is sort of slightly different. It's about your partner not coming to your defense or choosing to side with others if they criticize or belittle you. For example, their mother or their family members or their best friend who may not have taken a liking to you, and may either in front of you or behind your back speak about you in a negative way, and your partner doesn't come to your defense. And that can be really disheartening, and also sort of a form of psychological abuse or a psychological manipulation, because obviously when they're with you, everything's great, but away from you or with other people, things are quite negative. Privacy in a relationship is quite personal to the relationship. I think every relationship has its own set of boundaries, and that might be, some people are absolutely fine with all of their devices, having all their social media. And in other relationships, there might be a certain level of privacy that's expected, but it's a choice between the people in the relationship. And the issue is where that privacy is broken. So where the person is snooping, or there might be suspicions and sort of accusations. And that can be because of a symptom of insecurity, and maybe insecurity from previous relationships. For example, if somebody had been cheated on in the past. But what it means is it puts you under a lot of stress. And again, it's almost like going back to that sort of the jungle relationship where you constantly feel like you're about to be caught out or you're about to be accused of something, and that can cause a lot of stress and emotional turmoil. In a good relationship, communication is the most important thing. And when there are issues arising, the best way forward is just to address them as best you can. And sometimes you don't have the words. You might feel upset or you might feel a certain way and you don't quite have the understanding yet as to why you feel that way. But talking through with a partner is the best way forward. But in an unhealthy relationship, the partner might just sort of drop hints or make passive aggressive statements to sort of convey their irritation. For example, if they're clearly upset about something and you ask them, you know, what's wrong? How can I help? I'm fine, it's fine. Or there might be sarcasm or hostility. For example, you know, you go out with your friends, I'm fine, I'll just stay at home by myself. And the implication is there's something going on, but they're not allowing you to help. They're not opening the lines of communication. And this can be really difficult because what ends up happening is you have a partner who's quite prickly and quite hostile and quite angry and obviously struggling with something, and they don't let you in and don't let you support them to be able to get through whatever it is they're struggling with. And lastly, I just want to talk about financial disparity between people in a relationship, because sometimes it can be the case that one person is earning more money or just has more disposable income. And the important thing to note is that you don't owe anyone anything for gifts received, or for example, if at the time you're living together, they're paying more of the rent. If that's a choice that you've made as a couple, it shouldn't then be the case that you owe them certain aspects of a relationship, whether that's sexual favors, whether that's an allowance for them to go out and do whatever they want. It's all about kind of setting a contract and being transparent between these things. The other thing is that behavior should never be excused with money or gifts. So if your partner does something that you don't feel is justified, for example, they might cheat on you or something, just because they've bought you an expensive gift to make up for it doesn't mean you need to forgive them, because that can play into a more broader sense of psychological or emotional abuse.